A human used a rusted crown as a campfire stand. The warrior saw it, and her worst fear became king. Zarthik had seen empires rise and fall across 17 worlds. As a Nixari warrior historian, she had chronicled the deaths of kings, the collapse of dynasties, and the inevitable decay that claimed all civilizations. But nothing had prepared her for what she witnessed in the ruins of Campfire. The human sat cross-legged beside his makeshift camp, humming an off-key melody while prodding at the flames with a charred stick. Above the fire, suspended by 3 metal rods, hung a dented pot containing what smelled like synthetic protein paste mixed with local vegetation. The entire setup was crude, functional, and utterly unremarkable except for what supported it, the crown of Campfire. The eternal circlet, the symbol of divine authority that had commanded the reverence of billions across the sector. For 3 millennia, it was being used as a campfire stand. Zarthik's combat claws extended involuntarily as she crouched behind the rubble of what had once been the Grand Temple. The golden crown, now green with patina and pitted with rust, sat tilted at an angle beneath the human's cooking pot. One of its ancient gems had fallen out, leaving an empty socket that stared accusingly at the flames. The human designation, Marcus Chin, according to the refugee ship manifest she'd intercepted, seemed completely oblivious to the cosmic significance of his campfire arrangement. He stirred his meal, took a cautious taste, grimaced, and added more of the local purple berries he'd been foraging. This was exactly what High Command had warned him about. Exactly what made humans so dangerous. They didn't conquer with superior technology or overwhelming force. They conquered with indifference, with casual disregard for the sacred, the ancient, the supposedly immutable foundations of galactic civilization. They looked at a crown that had toppled governments and thought, this would make a decent tripod. Zarthik activated her recording implant. High Command would need to see this, would need to understand what they were dealing with. Day 47 of human observation, she whispered into her unit. Subject continues to display typical human disregard for established hierarchical structures. The systematic desecration appears to be unconscious, making it exponentially more dangerous to galactic stability. Marcus Chun burped, then apologized to no one in particular. He reached into his salvage pack and pulled out another ancient artifact, the ceremonial scepter of the high priest, if Zarthik wasn't mistaken. He examined it briefly, then began using it to dig a small latrine pit downwind from his camp. Zarthik's secondary heart seized. The scepter had been blessed by 12 generations of spiritual leaders. It was said to contain fragments of the original cosmic consciousness that birthed their species. And this human was using it to dig a toilet. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that it was working. The curved end of the scepter was actually perfectly designed for the task. 3,000 years of ceremonial design, and it turned out the ancient priesthood had accidentally created an excellent entrenching tool. She watched Marcus work, his movements efficient and matter-of-fact. When he finished, he cleaned the scepter in the nearby stream, then placed it carefully beside his other tools. Not reverently, just with the basic respect one showed any useful implement. This was how humans did it. This was how they dismantled empires without firing a shot. They arrived as refugees, as traders, as simple travelers seeking passage to somewhere else. They asked for nothing more than basic necessities: food, shelter, a place to rest. And then, gradually, inevitably, they began to strip away everything that held civilizations together, not through malice. Through practicality, Zarthik had studied the reports from the Centauri hegemony. Humans had arrived there 60 cycles ago, fleeing some distant conflict. They'd been grateful for asylum, had integrated peacefully into the lower social strata. They worked hard, followed laws, paid their taxes, but they also treated nobility like anyone else. They questioned obviously inefficient systems. They pointed out that the emperor's new clothes were, in fact, just regular clothes that happened to be expensive. Within a generation, The entire foundation of hereditary rule had crumbled not through revolution, but through gentle, persistent erosion of the beliefs that held it up. The hegemony was now a republic. The citizens were healthier, wealthier, and happier than they'd ever been under imperial rule. But the hegemony was gone, replaced by something alien and incomprehensible to species who understood hierarchy, who needed the comfort of ordained structure. Marcus Chun finished his meal and began cleaning his makeshift dishes in the stream. He hummed that same off-key song, apparently content with his simple existence among the ruins of gods. Zara Thick realized she was witnessing the birth of a nightmare scenario. Not the violent conquest they prepared for, but something far more insidious. The human would probably stay here for a while, living off the land, exploring the ruins with that terrible human curiosity. Eventually, other refugees would find him. They'd see how well he was doing, how he turned ancient relics into practical tools. Word would spread. More humans would come. They'd establish a settlement in the ruins, turning temples into workshops, using sacred stones to build irrigation systems. Within a decade, there will be a thriving human colony where the greatest civilization in the sector had once stood, and they would be genuinely puzzled if anyone objected to their presence. As night fell, Marcus banged his fire and settled into his sleeping bag, another piece of practical human engineering that somehow managed to be more comfortable than the ceremonial bedchambers of kings. The rusted crown continued to hold the remnants of his cooking fire, its ancient authority reduced. To keep an embers warm through the night, Zarathic began composing her report to High Command. She would recommend immediate quarantine of the sector, perhaps orbital bombardment, anything to prevent the spread of this casual apocalypse. But even as she planned humanity's containment, she found herself wondering about that off-key song Marcus had been humming. Despite herself, despite her training and her fear, she caught herself trying to remember the melody. And that, she realized with growing horror, was exactly how it began.